Hello and welcome to Thoughts with ebayjoey. I am your host, ebayjoey. Hopefully, everybody's safe out there and healthy. And thank you for coming back to episode 2. So, today we're going to get into a little bit of news for a reseller's journey. Also, I'm going to be talking about price gouging. Those are going to be my thoughts on price gouging. And then, lastly, I did get some DMs regarding people's goals, and we'll get into the show. So, first of all, episode 2, season 3, I interviewed La Vida Retail 2, and that's now on YouTube and all podcast platforms. So you can visit the links at aresellersjourney.com. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Today, I wanted to talk about price gouging. There was a situation that happened to me that I'm going to get into a little bit later, but I want to build the foundation for us and then kind of give my thoughts on that. So I've been really curious about what is price gouging. I know people that were selling sanitizers, they got in trouble via Amazon and also eBay, and so there's a lot of legality going on with them. So what I decided to do is do some research. So I went to oag.ca.gov. Since I live in California, I wanted to look up the laws, because what I found out that there's other states that don't have a price gouging law. So you might want to look into what state you're in. But in California, we have one. So the website says, what is price gouging? Price gouging refers to sellers trying to take unfair advantage of consumers during an emergency or disaster by greatly increasing prices for essential consumer goods and services. Next, the website says, is price gouging illegal in California? Yes, in certain circumstances. California anti-price gouging statute, Penal Code Section 396, prohibits raising price of consumer goods and services by more than 10% after an emergency has been declared. Local laws may apply, also contain their own prohibitions on price gouging. It continues, when does California anti-price gouging statute apply? The statute applies immediately after the President of the United States, the Governor of California, or city or county executive officer declares a state of emergency. So this is going to be very key. You have to know the date that this state of emergency is declared, because they're going to be able to take legal action based on when this occurred. Next, it says, who is subject to the statute? Individual, businesses, and other entities must comply with the statute. The statute applies to all sellers, including manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, and retailers. It also covers all sales, including sales to individual and families, businesses, and other organizations and government agencies. So pretty much with this statute, it's everybody, regardless if you have a business license or you don't, or you do this as a hobby or a part-time thing. It applies to everybody. That's what happens, especially in law. The way that they word this, it's very hard, to get out of it. And it also continues, what goods and services are covered by the statute? The statute applies to the following major necessities: lodging, including permanent or temporary rental housing, hotels, motels, and mobile homes; food and drink, including food and drink for animals; emergency supplies such as water, flashlights, radios, batteries, candles, blankets, soap, diapers, temporary shelters, tape, toiletries, plywood, nails, and hammers; and medical supplies such as prescription and non-prescription medication, bandages, gauze, isopropyl alcohol, and antibacterial products. It also applies to other goods and services, including home heating oil, building materials, including lumber, construction tools and windows, transportation, freight, storage, services, gasoline and other motor fuels, and repair and reconstruction services. The good and services listed above are just examples. The statute protections are not strictly limited to these items. So pretty much it's our job as citizens to understand the law and to know the law. It's very similar to the DMV. When a cop pulls us over or pulls pulls you over and says, hey, you're breaking this law, it's your job to know what the laws are. And I think in business, you also want to know what you can do and what you can't do and what are the laws. Because I think this caught a lot of people by surprise when they just said, hey, I'm just buying this sanitizer. The secondary market, it went up and I'm going to make this money. And regardless if the platform, dictated the price, regardless if you set the price, basically with the guidelines here, you're only allowed to go 10% above. And at the same time, it's the date of the state of emergency. So if the state of emergency was, let's say, May 5th, then you should be okay selling that stuff May 4th, May 3rd, May 2nd. But if you continue, then there can be some consequences. And so there's a good friend of the show, and he had sold some hand sanitizer on Amazon, and next thing you know, he got an email that he got subpoenaed. And so he has a lawyer. They went through the whole thing. It went all the way up to like a attorney general for the state, and they ended up in contact, and they were talking about, like, what did my client do? This is from the lawyer's perspective, and the client, being a friend of the show, was telling me the story. And they pretty much just asked that lawyer, like, well, what did I do wrong? And so they went into the whole clause of, it was a state of emergency and you sold this and we have the records. And then in his defense, he was like, I didn't sell it, during the state of emergency or after the state of emergency. And on top of that, he didn't even profit that much off of it. And so I think what's really going on is a lot of like witch hunting. I think they want to make examples of people during this situation to kind of, I think with future epidemics that might happen, they want to kind of, just let people know, like, hey, you can't be doing this. So, he asked the lawyer, the client asked the lawyer that, is accusing him of all this stuff or the paperwork. And he says, like, well, what's price gouging? Can you kind of explain it to me? And so basically what the attorney said is that you're making money, or you're charging too much on essential items that retain to people's health. And so he asked the question, like, hey, well, what about when you go to a football game and you want to go buy a water, and a bottle of water is just so expensive that it's like 5 times the price. And if you ever gone to a sporting event, what's that price is like. And so the lawyer tells him, like, hey, the stadium provides free water, and so you have an option to get free water and drink out of a fountain, or you can pay extra and get this bottle of water. And so that's when it kind of started clicking for me and for him, when you now have options. And I think because they're providing that essential water, and when it came to the hand sanitizer, that was essential. There was no other option. And so you see people charging for, like, Clorox wipes. You see toilet paper. You see a lot of things that I just read from the state of California that people are charging crazy prices, but this is considered essential. And so he's still going through the legal process. He's going to let me know what happens, but he says that there's definitely, they want to fine people. And he said the minimum fine is going to be $5,000 on the smallest offense. And he only sold a couple or a handful, whatever word you want to use. So this kind of leads me into what happened a couple days ago. And we all know there's a shortage with Nintendo Switches. And whether it's Walmart, Nintendo Direct, or Target, or any of these large retailers, these Nintendo Switches are gone. So now the secondary market, which would be eBay, Amazon, OfferUp, the price has gone up. Now, my wife, she handles the OfferUp, she handles the Facebook, and she posted some Switch Lites that we got. Nothing crazy. They're $200. After tax, they're $220. So I said, okay, if I can sell them, face to face without fees for $280, I'll profit $60. I'm cool with that. It's just kind of something just to bring in some revenue and take advantage that, these items are out of stock, and I was able to get them. So she posts them on Facebook, and people are going crazy. They're saying, how could you charge this much? You're taking advantage of of people that don't have a lot of financial, they don't have a lot of money. You can go buy these at the store. They're only 200. Why are you charging so much? And then I added a game on top, and then I put the game for like 320, 340. And people just start, saying like, this is what they said. You're a shitty person. What kind of business person are you? You can't negotiate and do wholesale. You got to take advantage of people. And for me, I'm processing all this stuff and I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, these people are, and also they're telling me that this is an essential product. And so this what really led me to dig deep and find out like a Nintendo is not an essential product. Nintendo, the game, the console, it's a luxury. You don't need it to survive. It's not water. It's not Clorox or bleach where you need to disinfect. It's not, toiletry. It's nothing to do with what I listed. So I have the liberty as a reseller to sell it at whatever I want. And if I want to sell it at 280, 300, 320, that's up to me. And if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. And so it just made me really think about, the times that we're in. And it's just unfortunate that people don't understand, and they don't understand the law, and they don't understand business. Like, if you don't want to pay secondary price, then you need to, go to the store sooner and make sure you get one at retail. But just like in life, if you want something, you're going to pay for it. Even this podcast, we talk about, sneaker reselling. And there's sneakers that you buy retail, but they sell out, and then the price can go up into the thousands. And it's up to people if they want to pay for that. And I don't think shoes are essential, and they didn't come up in this list. But if someone wants to pay, 5x of the price, that's up to them. And so I just wish that, people were informed and people know the law. And also for the people that are listening, I want you to know your law or the law in your state, so you can be prepared that if you do sell on these websites, people are going to come at you, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the world that we live in. So hopefully all this helped out, and going forward, you can tell people like, okay, if it's not essential or if I'm price gouging, show me the statute, show me the law. And I even told these people on Facebook, like, you're telling me that they're in stock, send me a screenshot of where they're in stock, because Walmart says they're out of stock. Target says they're out of stock. So now you become a liar, and, you just got to call people out. But I think, lesson learned, I think it was just a waste of time just dealing with people that really didn't have anything positive to say. It was almost like, I'm over here trying to make extra money for my family. And at the same time, they were shitting on me. But it's like, how about if I were to go on social programs, or, you know what I mean? It's like, would they still shit on me because I'm going that route, but I'm trying to be independent. And it just seems like, people don't really want to support, people that want to do things on their own and not rely on anything else. So hopefully this helped out. These are just my thoughts on what's going on. But, I do see on Instagram, people posting offer up, or some Facebook, posts of people just really saying comments that shouldn't be said. So it is what it is. Hopefully this helped out, but let's just go out there and continue to make that profit. So the last show, episode 1, I talked about, I want to do something with goals and milestones, and as a community, share that with each other so it can kind of keep us accountable, but at the same time, it can encourage us. And I know that we're all at different stages in reselling. And so we're not trying to compare by no means. But at the same time, I think it's good to hear that if someone that's above you, that's been doing it longer, has a goal, that they can get it. And then at some point you can get it as well. And you can achieve that. So I got I got 2 DMs. One of them just, wanted to remain anonymous. And he said he just wants to level up. It was just simple as that. 2 words, level up. And I think that's great that reseller recognizes that, hey, I need to do more than what I'm doing right now. So, we'll keep track on him and keep him accountable. But on the second one I got was from travel.buy.sell. And what he said was, I want to diversify into more essential businesses. And I think this is great because that's how I feel as well, where it's like, I always talk about the 80-20 rule on the podcast. 80% of my profits come from shoes. And and the other 20% is just miscellaneous items. And like you can see behind me, I got some hair clippers that I'm selling. And I just want to have more exposure to the 20%. And I think it's very smart because and there's no right or wrong way to run your business, but at the same time, if you're exposed to just one category, if that category slows down or it fails, you're in trouble. But if you have multiple categories and you're diversified, you can kind of you can hang in there longer. You can go through a storm and it won't hurt. And for me, I'm in cabinet. I sell cabinet doors. I'm a salesman, so I mainly deal with cabinet makers. But sometimes I deal with contractors. And so with cabinet makers, they specialize in just like remodeling kitchens. You're doing cabinets in the home. Now, a contractor, he also does cabinets, but then he does electrical. He does the plumbing. He does concrete, or she does it. It's like now they have different avenue streams. So with this recession that we're in, or this COVID that's taking place, the general contractor that just doesn't rely on kitchen remodels is busier than ever. But then the cabinet maker has slowed down because that business is slowing down, where people just don't want them in the house. And so you kind of you see both sides, and whichever direction you want to go, that's totally up to you. But for me, I love this where it says, hey, let's diversify, and that means they're thinking about the future. They're not just thinking about now, but they're thinking about down the road. What do I need to do? Can I do this? Can I add that? And I get it. Some people specialize in the shoes, and they have extreme knowledge, and they know everything. But it's going to take time if you want to learn other categories. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, where it's like I'm starting to sell video games. It's new to me, but I'm learning. And, I got a good friend, collectibles.beyond, and he's been helping me and mentoring me that with the video games. And so I'm learning that category. And then there's other categories like the essentials, and there's a group of people that mentor me as well. And so it's this whole thing. We got to just continue growing and learning from one another. So that wraps up the show. I appreciate everybody that's listening and that continues to listen. I hope you guys find this very helpful. And you can find me on Instagram at ebayjoey. You can find the show at A Reseller's Journey on Instagram. I have a website that's aresellersjourney.com. I have all the links to all the platforms that I'm on for the podcast and for YouTube. If you want to see a visual, you guys know how it goes. Never forget why you started. Peace.